When you go through life's hard lessons, you have a responsibility to share it. I want to start with a story about my grandfather, Banarsi Das Saraf. He was a freedom fighter against the British during India's revolution. And as it turns out, on the day that my father was born, my Dadaji, my grandfather, was sitting in jail during this Gandhi movement. So I grew up with stories about my grandfather, who was tenacious and he never gave up. And he would get out of jail, go home and eat with his 12 kids, and go back out and fight the British. Of course, India eventually gains its independence, but the country is in chaos. The economy is in turmoil, and our family business, we were jewelers, was struggling. And from one day to the next, my dad and his entire family didn't know if they would make it. So my dad one day gets the idea, I'm gonna go to America to achieve the American dream. And he marries my mom and comes here with $8 in his pocket. And they immigrate, and they have this belief that with hard work and education, they can make it. Eventually, I'm born. Rashmi. Now, Rashmi means President Pumariega, the rays of the morning sun. In other words, the light from the sunrise. And I'm born into this family legacy of courage, of justice, and never, ever giving up. In March of my senior year in high school, I went to Coral Gables High School. Any Cavaliers? Woohoo! March of my senior year in high school, my parents lose everything. The market collapses in 1989. And I watched my parents carry what they could into this rental home a block from Gables. And yes, they cried. Because this is what they came for, to make it. They had to file bankruptcy. We lost this home to foreclosure. And yet they did this really important thing. They told my sisters and I the truth, and they never lost hope. And they always showed us love and to each other. And so I knew that no matter what happens, I can get through anything. And here's the thing, I had spent my entire life believing that the only reason people loved me and all of my self-esteem and self-worth was rooted in achievement. So I kept having to achieve to feel any sort of self-value. How many of you have ever felt pressure? Legal, marital, medical? You got two up over here. Okay. I need to hear that story. Right? Like we all face it. And we as women are not strangers to this. But you see, I had created a self-imposed prison of glass walls around me that I didn't even know was there. And it looked like overwhelm, stress, burnout, anxiety, uncertainty, status quo. Like status quo is just comfortable. I just wanted to stay in this box. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Like you don't even know you're trying to do all these things, like yet you still do them? Of course we do, right? Because we're all trying to wear all these hats. So in April 2014, I was indicted for 1 count of conspiracy to commit bank fraud and 24 counts of bank fraud. I had made some bad decisions. So about 2 weeks later, my family called our Indian community to come to the house. You see, we didn't want people to gossip about it. And my parents were leaders in our community. So we called 50 of my closest aunties and uncles. Right, like everyone's an auntie and uncle in our community. So everyone comes to the house on a Saturday night. And of course, we fed them samosas. And then we were all in the living room, and my dad was in the corner, and I was sitting on the sofa. My mom was here, and one of my uncles from the community was here. And my dad told everybody that I had been indicted 2 weeks earlier. And he's crying. And I'm crying. And my mom is hard as nails. She doesn't cry. And this uncle right here says, Beti, which in Hindi means daughter, one day you realize this is not happening to you. This is happening for you. Now, maybe you guys have heard this. I had never heard it until that point. And I didn't know what that was going to be yet. But it became a seed in the back of my mind. You see, all I could do in that moment was reframe and accept that this is happening. I had to own the truth. I had to recognize that there came a point where I was going to have to reframe this. And my uncle's words kept ringing, like, this is happening for me. This is happening for me. So after I reframed, I recognized that I was sitting there having all this negative self-talk, like, what are people going to say about me? Who's going to stand up for me? Will people even be there for me? What's going to happen to my reputation? Am I actually going to ever come back from this? Because I was so stuck in ego. I was so stuck in the idea of all of my achievement and my self-worth was rooted in this thing. And now I have lost that thing. Would people even love me anymore? Had I disgraced my parents so much? How will I move on from this? And so I began to identify my constellation of stars, the people in my life that I could lean on, that would lift me up. And so, because I'm an overachiever, I made a list of people, like a spreadsheet. And one by one, I began to call every single one of them. It was almost 200 people. Like elementary school friends, high school friends, law school friends, my kids' friends' parents, my kids' teachers, my running friends, politicians in Miami, nonprofit directors in Miami, managing partners of law firms in Miami, people that knew me at my core, that knew my history and character. And I would pick up the phone and I would call them, and I would, exactly like I've told you, I would tell them. And what I'll tell you is that before I picked up the phone and called them, I was so sure that every one of them would hang up on me, that they would shun me, that they would want to have nothing to do with me, because I had messed up. And the most incredible thing happened. And 182 letters were sent to the judge. And it was like I got eulogized before I died. Like, who gets that opportunity? And the thing is I didn't actually realize people loved me for me. And I had impacted people like in elementary school and high school that they still remembered. You see, I walked through shame. And I had spent my entire life believing that I can't show that side of me. Don't we all pretend like nothing's wrong? It's so much easier. But yet I walked through shame and found unconditional love in a way that I never, ever thought possible. And what I learned is that people are very forgiving of our humanity when we give them the chance. One of my friends said, Rashmi, you stood naked and exposed for the entire world to judge you, and we did. And we got to see ourselves in you. And we got to teach our kids this lesson, which is that we are all flawed humans, here to learn lessons. And I remember in June of 2015, I walked in and I walked up to that podium And the entire room was full of those 180 people, there to love on me. People drove down from Charlotte, flew in from New York and Philadelphia and Houston, friends, family. And I stood up at that podium and I apologized to the judge, and I turned around and I apologized to my parents, and then I apologized to my community. And I promised to do better. And you see, on that day, when I was there to be sentenced, any other person would have said, "What a day of failure." I would have said that about myself. But on that day, what I learned is that success for me is now defined by how many people I can touch and inspire every day. Because that room was full of people there loving me unconditionally as the judge sentenced me to a year and a day in prison. And when that happened, I collapsed on the ground. And I was shaking and crying hysterically. And it's not that I was scared for me, because I'm a survivor, I'm a fighter. I can get through anything. My grandfather did it, I can do it. I'm already passing judgment on the women I'm about to go be with. I've spent 5 months in federal. I have friends there. I have a prison mom who takes care of me, who's taught me to crochet, all the things. But I'm going to county, and I have literally started talking to myself about the women I'm about to go be with. And I was like, I don't belong with them. I'm an attorney. I'm educated. I'm not supposed to be there. And so I walk into this cube, and above me was a prostitute heroin dealer, and next to me was a homeless person who had been selling drugs, and above her, a 24-year-old meth dealer with a 4-year-old at home. And I spent 23 days cooking, eating, praying, crying, sleeping, getting them to work out with me. And I learned, how dare I pass judgment on these women? Because but for the grace of God, there go I. And we are all drops from the same ocean. We're all just humans, flawed, figuring it out every day. So here's the thing, right? In the hardest of moments, I was away from my kids, I'm sitting in county jail, and I found gratitude and joy. And we danced with women I was passing judgment with, yet I found they were my sisters. But you see, this is what else I've learned. I thought I had to achieve and be the oldest of 3 sisters and do it alone. I thought I couldn't ask questions. I thought I couldn't be vulnerable. I thought I couldn't ask for help. But when I did, people stood up for me. When I let go of ego, people gave me their love. When I asked for help, they all showed up. And that was when I realized, like, wow, the connective tissue for me is that literally every single walk of this journey has been with other people supporting me and being there for me. My community, my friends, my family, my Miami community, my running community, my entire community. And don't we all have that for each other? And I have learned that I never, ever thought I could do this with other people, and actually I can. Because when we rise together. When you as individuals here, at home and at work, individually commit to doing these 4 things, to rising, then each of you in your teams here at the college, in your communities, you will rise together. And then the college will rise together as a whole. And your students are going to feel it. When you go through life's hard lessons, you have a responsibility to share it so that others can learn and never have to go through what you did and went through. I am my grandfather's legacy. But what will be your legacy? Each of you here at Miami-Dade College can do something every day to commit not only to your own legacy, but to the college's legacy. What will you dare to do? What will you surrender to? What will you evolve to do today and create your legacy? So what's my legacy? Well, I hope that when my kids are fighting the fight or some sort of revolution, I hope they think of their great-grandfather, my dad, I mean. And when they are trying something new and are scared, I hope they think of my parents, their grandparents. That's a legacy I can live with. Thank you so much. I'm Rashmi Airan.